I wanted to come on to, because we spoke the other day about a bit more personal, a bit more of a personal topic, and I think this is a very relevant topic that a lot of people will relate to, because we all go through this at some point. Even us recently, we had, a loss in the family.
Yeah.
So we've been, going through our own process. But
Yeah.
for the people who don't know, and we're going to get a little raw here, but it's okay. Tell us about what happened a few years ago with your husband and that whole process of grief and everything that came with it.
Yeah, I think what I really am today and whatever my beliefs are, I think that had a lot to do with it, of how it shaped me as a person. But yes, I suffered tremendous loss in my early life, and it was in April 2016. We were living in Abu Dhabi, and we were living and working there. We had a new baby, so life was great. And but then he suffered an accident, and he lost his life. And for me, I think that was it. I felt as if my world has ended. It did, momentarily. And it was a very dark, dark phase of my life, but a very weird one as well, where I learned so much from it much later on. But at that time, when that happened, I just felt as if everything stopped. And I remember categorically, just a few days after that happened, I would look at the sun rising and the night falling, and I would actually feel bad about it. Like, how dare things in the universe are going as per their routine when mine has just literally stopped. And then it took a very long time for me to come to my senses and to regain control of my life. But yes, having my daughter was the biggest blessing. Because once you have a kid, you have to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
You have to be on your feet. You have to do things. And routine always helps with that.
Yeah.
Because once you go through an experience like that, unless you have a structure in your day, it's just very hard to keep carrying on. So yeah, I went back home. My parents immediately called me back. They said, there's no way you're staying there by yourself. You need to come back. I went home. And I stayed with my parents for the next 3 years then. And during that time, one thing that I did, I've always been an overachiever and always the sort of kid who doesn't cry in front of their parents, who's always having that perfect image outside. And I'm so calm and composed. And I've always been like that, pretty composed, and all of my friends as well, the mature one. So I think what I did was I didn't allow myself to grieve in the way that I should have. So I just had put up this whole persona that, everything is okay, like I'm doing fine. And anyway, for the first few months, I was in shock, even for the first few days when I heard the news.
Yeah.
And it's very strange, but I couldn't cry. And from the culture that I come from, right, these things are very important. If there's people who are coming in the house to offer their condolences, a lot of responsibility around these things in our society falls on the women.
Okay.
And sometimes we're blamed on things that we're not even supposed to be blamed on. So a lot of people didn't understand the reason of what I was going through, that I was in shock because, it was something that was so big. And this is not something you predict, if somebody's not feeling well and then they pass away or they've been sick for a few days. When someone instantly goes from your life, it's the kind of loss which, so your brain is unable to comprehend. I didn't believe it. And I was in shock. So my tears weren't coming up. And for the first few days, Khalid, I was like normal. I was sleeping. I was sleeping on time because I was not myself. And then there were some people who didn't really see that it was okay, whatever it was, because it was my grief journey. It must be different. I would have loved to be flat on the floor and cry and wail because that's what I was feeling from inside.
Yeah.
But I just, from the surface, I don't even know. I think I had no emotions on me. And people would come for condolences. They would look at me and they'd say things. And, that, is she okay? Even to the point we're thinking if I cared for him enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I think I was... And I am, alhamdulillah, so blessed because I have the best family in the world. I know everybody says it, but this is these are beautiful bonds. And the most amazing part of our culture is that, since we grew up so strong and close together, I was just imagining if something like that happened to someone who didn't have that support, then that person would really feel. I was like so cushioned, you know. They called me back. I had an amazing support system, and yeah, for the next 3 years, they helped me. I was living with them, and then I started work. I think as soon as my idda was over, after the 4 months period, I started work again, and I just really involved myself at work. I really, that was my time period when I was working with the hotel brand. And I enjoyed working, and I was doing okay. I think after the first year started being okay, and I worked a lot on myself. Again, I didn't have professional help. It's something that I wish that I had, yeah.
Okay.
But I tried to seek for it, but the only places that I could, because, you know, it's not very common for young spouses to lose a spouse.
True, yeah.
So I tried looking for people, because I really at that time, apart from my family, see, I'm that person who, you know, I can't really share a lot of these. I mean, it's something that will break my mom. Like if I sit with her and I tell her how I'm really feeling, like it would break her. So I put up this face in front of them that everything is okay, but
to protect her.
To protect them. And I didn't talk about those things, you know, and I just trained myself so hard to not cry, to be okay and everything, and to keep on going with life. That I denied myself that pain that I had to go through.
Yeah.
So anyway, that happened, and after that, 3 years went by, and then I wasn't even thinking about getting married again. It was the last thing on my mind, because I had my daughter, and my whole world revolves around her. And but yeah, I remember somebody introduced us, and you know, I met someone. Started speaking basically, and the first few things that I got to know about him, you know, he seemed like such a gentle person, and I said, okay, let's try to speak to him and everything. And you know, I think he was God sent, because he understood my situation and he accepted me with everything. And yeah, we got married at the start of this year. That's when I moved back. So I'm here now. My daughter's here now, and we have a whole blended family. It's a whole new experience.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, but the part that I was speaking about, where I didn't allow myself to grieve. Now, what happened, like, as soon as I shifted here, I wasn't working, and I wanted to, but then COVID happened. So I was at home, and my daughter was there as well. But now was the time when I didn't have work as a facade in front of me to avoid me to think about things. And I hit rock bottom. And I went through a very bad phase where I actually felt as if it was my grief stage number 1. So you know how scientists, they like to talk about how there's different stages of grief,
yeah.
and you go through them, denial, acceptance, and da-da-da. It didn't happen like that. It didn't go from 1 to 6 maybe. So I was basically at stage 1 or 2. And I thought about it, and then I actually gave myself permission to feel all of those things. And it was so important, and I had been running away. But now, you know, my husband was at work, my daughter was at school, and I was just with myself, and I gave myself permission that it's okay to cry. It's okay to think about him. It's okay to question, because you do those kind of things, you know.
Sure.
It's okay to question your faith. It's okay to question whatever happened. And slowly, I think, you know, I was okay.
Yeah.
So with grief, you know, this is what when I'm speaking to someone as well who has gone through a similar experience, and, you know, who asks for help, is this that it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's something that will live with you your whole life.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't like the word moving on, you know, even though I'm married now. You know, if somebody says, oh, so it's nice that you're moving on. I'm not moving on. I'm moving forward, right? That part of me is still there, because that person existed. That person was real. The memories I had, the experiences I had, the good and the bad and the ugly, that was a part of my life. And it would be a lie if I just ignore all of that, and I cannot move on. I accept all of that. And I move on now with grace, knowing that it happened, and I will never understand why it happened, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. I think it also, of course, offered me the perspective into this bigger question, and I think that's a lot of reason why this whole existential crisis debates that I do that come from, is because I did go through that point where I started thinking about, why are we here on this earth? What's our purpose?
Yeah.
Where are we going? Where do souls go when they die? I started reading up on. I went cuckoo. right? To the point, and I'll share with you here, that I actually went into that direction where I started talking to mediums, where they're spirit mediums, and
Sure.
then they claim that they can help you speak to the person on the other side. I had to do all of that. I had to go through that process in order to be where I am today.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that anymore. I don't think it's possible that you can do it, because whatever supposedly they were telling me, it didn't sound right. So it's okay. There might be ways that they might know about my past and everything, but it didn't resonate with me. So
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
true. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I learned from this is that I don't know. There are a lot of things, I think, even about our universe, that our brains, our human minds, our capabilities to make sense of things, it's just maybe a small percentage, because that's what we're making use of. That's what we're sent in this earth to do.
Yeah.
And what we're capable of, what we don't know, is limitless.
Limitless. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I know this for a fact, that I know that there's God. My belief on Allah is just so strong now. And I know that there's a process. And I know that somebody who's gone from here has passed over to another realm where they wait for the final day.
Yeah.
And I don't know when we're reunited as souls, what will happen, because, according to our religion as well, there will be no relationships. There will be no husband and wife. There will be no brother and sister, because we're souls and we carry our own identity. So it's just a very short while here on this earth.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, the kind of person that I've become now is that I'm just so full of love. I am not scared to show it, but I just really value my relationships, and I'm
Sure.
just so afraid if I'm suffocating people at times. My friends, my family, my daughter, I'll wake up 10 times during the night and I'll go and I'll hug her and I'll give her a kiss, So yeah, that's just how it's made me as a person.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
For a long time, I think, even with my podcast, I've never spoken about it. And I remember that we discussed this over coffee the other day, and I just felt as if it would be, again, not honest of me to be hiding such a big thing about me, and to be not... I mean, of course, I have to be okay to speak about it.
Of course.
I would never speak about it if I wasn't okay with it, but I
Yeah.
just thought that it's all right,
Yeah.
I think that's where I come from, and I have to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say I'm honored that you chose me to share this with, and I don't take it lightly. And to go through what you went through, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been, to lose a spouse, like you said, at such a young age, and you have a baby together and so on. And to go through that grieving process, I think, even us over the last year in our family, we've lost a lot of people, quite a few people. And me and my dad were actually talking about it the other day. He's like, we haven't had time to grieve, because it's been one big loss after another, and then life goes on, and then COVID came, and then you think about work, and so he's like, I've never had the time to sit, like you said, it took after 3 years is when you finally had that time for yourself to sit and feel and really think about and go through all that stuff. And and I think that's so important. And I think everyone grieves in different ways. Even in my experiences, a lot of times I get numb. I'm sad, but I'm numb. I don't know how to, I cry on other things. I can cry on anything else. I cry sometimes watching Japanese cartoons. I can cry. So I'm not unable to cry. But in those situations when it really hits, I don't know. It kind of like you said, the walls that kind of come up.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not allowed to cry. It's that it's almost like I'm scared to do it or something, and then sometimes way later down the line it all will come out at some point. And I think that needs to happen for everyone, because that's when the healing begins for yourself, for yourself and for everything that you're going through. And everyone grieves differently.
Yeah, true.
There's no, and that's why when you were saying what was interesting, you didn't grieve the way you should. And I thought that was interesting, because there is no one way to do it. But you in your mind must have had a certain perspective, this is how I should grieve, right? And I think you went through your own experience of, you went through maybe the stages, but not linearly, in different ways, maybe denial, and then anger came, and then there was this, and then it was that. So thank you, first of all, so much for sharing that story. I can imagine, I know it's not easy.
Yeah, it never is. But
yeah.
I guess it's just about taking every day as it comes. That's all that I can say, because one thing, it was a very, very bad time, but I just took every day, one day at a time, one step at a time. And believe me, that helps. That's one thing that kept me going.
Exactly.
You know? That was supposedly just a few days shy of my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
You know, at 30, you're supposed to have everything figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't let any of those things get to me, you know, because I'm just, I think, more grateful to be alive, to be able to have these beautiful relationships in my life, and to be able to know him and to love him for that time period that I did, because he was an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And part of it, you know, again, the responsibility on me was, how do I communicate it with my daughter? Because she was so young. She was only 8 months, so she didn't know. So if I wanted, I could have chosen to not tell her because it would avoid her the heartbreak.
Yeah.
But I did. Since beginning, I made sure that she looks at his videos and his pictures and everything, and she knows who he is.
Yeah.
And much to the disagreement of a lot of people who thought, so you shouldn't tell her because it will make her sad. Slowly she will start feeling that there's something that is missing. But I don't know if it's going to happen like that. But I just feel it's the right thing to do, that it was important that she knows. And she knows him.
Exactly.
And she's very well articulated on her thoughts about him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And just the other day, she was telling a few kids in the playground all about him, my dad was so strong, he could lift me up with one hand. And my mom tells me I has his eyes. So she's adorable.
That's awesome.
And then they all said, because, grief and kids is very hard. How do you explain it to kids?
True.
So how I did was that I was very candid with her. I'd had conversations with her. And then when she would ask me, where is he? I would tell her that, he's with Allah because he passed away. Okay, and oh, Mama, is he ever coming back? I said, yeah, sweetie, if somebody goes to Allah, he stays there or she stays there. But then eventually we also go. And it's hard for them to understand. She might not comprehend everything, but she might get something out of it.
Sure.
So it was a very proud moment for me when the other day in the playground, she was telling the kids and they said, okay, but then where's your dad? And she said, look, he's with Allah and he's there and, he's waiting for us.
Yeah.
So, and she said he's with the good guys. And that was so sweet.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
So,
but like you said, I think kids is very difficult, but I support what you did. I think, if I was in the same situation, I think it's important. It would be important to know. Yeah. Yes, it might cause some, because you can look at it in two ways. Like, oh, they will be sad because they'll have questions as to where they are. Yeah. But what if you can flip it and be like, okay, they grew up never knowing that, and then one day they find out, they're gonna be like, what the hell? Like, why?
Yeah, they will eventually. Yes.
So there's no right. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I just think, but personally, I would do the same. And I loved what you said about, I'm not moving on, I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful thing to say. I had. Her name is, what's her name? Dr. Saliha was on the podcast, and she's the founder of Lighthouse. And she was telling me that you can grieve, there's a difference between grief and mourning. You can grieve there's stages with grief, but you could mourn forever. You can carry that with you. And so that what you said, when you were saying that, I'm like, that's exactly what Saniya is doing. And I think that's what we all do.
Yeah.
I think I don't think you'll ever be the same. I don't think you can ever be the same after going through something like that. But that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not, and that you just become a new this is the new person
Someone
that you're going to
totally
become.
different, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. True.
How do you feel now that you've shared it? How does it feel?
Feels okay. Okay. Yeah.
Feels good?
I speak about it with, of course, my family and friends, and it's just something that it's a part of me.
Yeah.
It defines me, who I am.
Yeah,
so it's
for
the
sure.
truth. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm again, I'm said, thank you for sharing with me and with all of us. I think so many people don't talk about this enough because it's just maybe very painful, or
Yeah.
Everyone
which is okay.
Of course,
they need to
no,
take their time. Yeah.
Of course, everyone kind of does things in their own time. But I'm very honored that you chose to share it with me and with all of us. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to what you've been through.
I hope if it helps someone.
Yeah. Well, we just hope to help. That's what we do.
That's true. That's your logo. See, that's a strong brand identity right there.
See what I mean? It's just so catchy.
Yeah.
But what's happened? Now, sometimes my friends will ask me for advice or whatever, and I'd be like, I'll give them some advice.
Hope it helps.
But I'm not trying to plug it, but it just turns out that way. So, and I always laugh about it. So now it's become a thing. I'm like, I hope it helps. That's fine.
There you go.
Saniya, I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I've absolutely loved this conversation from the whole marketing side, but especially getting personal and like to the grief and so on. I think I'm very honored that you share that with us and with me, and I hope that someone can relate to this and help them, and if they're going through something, to see that there's a future and there's hope, and things will
Yeah.
not be the same, but they will get better.
Yeah.